Rain clouds loomed heavy over the glittering skyline as Emily stood alone on the rooftop of the 20-story building, her silk maternity dress clinging to her in the cold wind. The city stretched endlessly beneath her, her city, her empire. She had built it from the ground up, a woman of strength and vision, but tonight that world felt ready to crumble. Her husband, Daniel, stood only a few feet away, his expensive suit dampened by the drizzle, his expression torn between guilt and panic. Across from him, Vanessa, his mistress, glared at Emily with venomous hatred, her crimson dress a stark contrast against the gray night sky. The confrontation that had begun in whispers had now turned into an explosive storm of betrayal. Emily's voice quivered but carried a firm edge. "I gave you everything, Daniel, my heart, my trust, our child's future." Her hand gently brushed over her swollen belly. "Wasn't that enough?" Daniel's lips parted, but no words came. The shame on his face said more than any excuse could. Vanessa, unable to bear the emotional weight of the moment, stepped forward, her jealousy boiling over. "You think you can play the saint, Emily? He doesn't love you anymore. You're just the face of this company, a brand, nothing else." The wind picked up, tugging at Emily's hair as tears welled in her eyes. She looked at Daniel, searching desperately for a flicker of love, of remorse, but saw only fear. Her world cracked at that moment, not from the betrayal alone, but from realizing that the man she built her empire with was no longer hers. Vanessa's eyes blazed with fury as she advanced, her words cutting like knives. "You should have stayed away tonight. You've already lost him." It happened so fast. A sudden shove, a scream that pierced through the thunder. Daniel gasped, reaching out too late. Emily's feet slipped on the slick surface, her body tipping backward into open air. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. The city lights blurred as she fell, the reflection of her terrified face mirrored in the glass windows she passed. Time slowed. She thought of her unborn baby, her company, her dreams. The cold rush of wind filled her lungs, and her hands reached out instinctively, searching for something, anything, to hold on to. Far below, the glowing lights of a billboard waited, unknowingly about to become her savior. And as the storm raged above, the world held its breath for the woman who had been pushed from her own kingdom. The world turned into a blur of lights and wind as Emily plummeted from the rooftop. The city's neon glow streaked past her, every second stretching into eternity. Her heart pounded so violently it drowned out the sound of the storm. The scream that tore from her throat was swallowed by the roaring wind. She thought of her baby, of the tiny heartbeat she'd heard just days ago. Fear clawed at her chest, but somewhere inside her, a faint voice whispered, "Not yet." Below, the traffic moved like veins of light, unaware of the tragedy unfolding above. Pedestrians froze as they spotted a silhouette falling from the towering skyscraper. Gasps and shouts filled the street. Someone screamed for help. Cameras flashed as bystanders pointed upward, helpless to intervene. Rain lashed against Emily's face, her tears mixing with it as she fell faster and faster, her arms outstretched like broken wings. But fate, or something far greater, had other plans. Just below the building, a giant billboard stretched across its lower floors. It was one of her company's advertisements, featuring her own smiling face with the slogan, "Trust built to last." The irony was haunting, but destiny was not finished with her story yet. The wind shifted at the last second, pushing her toward it. With a violent rip, the fabric of the billboard tore as Emily struck it, the shock coursing through her body. The material sagged under her weight, acting as a fragile cushion between life and death. For a moment, there was only silence. The rain softened, and Emily lay still, suspended in the torn billboard. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. The pain was excruciating, but she could still feel the faint kick of her baby inside her, a sign that life clung on. Her trembling hands gripped the edge of the metal frame, her knuckles white. The crowd below erupted in disbelief. People screamed her name, some recognizing her face not only from the billboard but from the news, the woman who built one of the most powerful advertising empires in the country. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as police and medics rushed to the scene. Above her, lightning flashed once more, illuminating the shredded billboard that had miraculously saved her life. The words, "Trust built to last," fluttered in the stormy wind, now seeming almost prophetic. Hanging there, soaked and trembling, Emily realized that the very brand she had built, her creation, had just saved her and her unborn child. Fate, it seemed, had chosen not to end her story but to give her a second chance to rewrite it. Bright lights flickered above her as Emily slowly opened her eyes, the sterile scent of antiseptic surrounding her. For a moment, she didn't know where she was, only the steady beeping of a heart monitor reassured her she was alive. Then the memories hit like a wave, the rooftop, the shove, the fall, the billboard. Her hand instinctively moved to her belly. A tear rolled down her cheek when she felt a soft kick in response. Her baby was still alive. Relief flooded through her entire body, mingling with the ache of bruised ribs and bandaged wounds. Daniel sat slumped in a chair beside her hospital bed, eyes bloodshot and filled with guilt. When he saw her awake, he jolted upright, his trembling hands clutching hers. "Emily. I thought I lost you," he whispered, his voice cracking under the weight of regret. She stared at him silently, her expression unreadable. The silence stretched long enough to make him tremble. "I swear, I didn't know she'd do that," he said quickly, trying to defend himself. "Vanessa," she lost control. "I never meant." Emily cut him off softly. "You stood there," she murmured. Her voice was calm, almost too calm. "You watched me fall." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. There was no defense left in him, only shame. Before he could reply, the door opened and two police officers stepped inside, their serious faces breaking the tension in the room. "Mrs. Steele," one of them said, "we've taken Vanessa Rhodes into custody. She's been charged with attempted murder." The name hung heavy in the air. Daniel buried his face in his hands as Emily looked away, her mind replaying every second of the rooftop horror. As the officers left, a nurse turned on the television mounted on the wall. The news was already ablaze with the story. Headlines flashed, "Businesswoman survives 20-story fall, saved by her own billboard." Photos of the mangled sign filled the screen, with reporters calling it a miracle. The world watched in awe, fascinated by the woman who literally fell from her own empire and lived. Social media was flooded with her pictures, her company logo glowing behind her name. Emily lay back, silent, absorbing it all. Her brand, her company, her face, everything she had built, was now part of a miracle the world couldn't stop talking about. But inside her, something deeper stirred. She had survived not just a fall, but a betrayal. The woman she had been, trusting, loving, vulnerable, had died on that rooftop. The one who awoke in this hospital bed was someone new. Someone stronger. Someone ready to take back everything that was hers. Weeks passed, and the world outside the hospital kept buzzing with Emily's name. Her miraculous survival had turned her into a global symbol of strength and destiny. Reporters called her the woman who fell and rose again. But while the media praised her courage, Emily was quietly rebuilding her own power. Each morning she stood by the window of her penthouse, watching the same skyline that almost became her grave. Her body had healed, but her spirit burned with new fire, the kind that comes only from betrayal and rebirth. Daniel tried to visit several times, leaving flowers and messages, but she sent every bouquet straight to the trash. His apologies were too late, his remorse too shallow. The company, Steele Media Group, still bore his name, yet it had been built from her ideas, her creativity, her sleepless nights. And now, after surviving the impossible, she realized she didn't need him to define her legacy. One rainy morning, she put on a sleek black suit, her baby bump visible but carried like armor, and walked into the company headquarters for the first time since the fall. The moment she stepped through the glass doors, the office fell silent. Employees stared, some whispering, others holding back tears. Emily's presence was magnetic, calm, composed, unstoppable. She headed straight to the top floor, where Daniel sat in his office, surrounded by news articles about her miracle. When he looked up, his face paled. "Emily, what are you doing here?" he asked nervously. She laid a folder on his desk. "Taking back what's mine," she replied coolly. Inside were documents transferring full control of the company back to her, legal steps she had prepared while he hid behind guilt and scandal. Daniel stammered, but she didn't let him speak. "You let me fall once," she said firmly, "but I learned how to rise on my own." With a quiet finality, she signed the papers. Security escorted Daniel out minutes later, his name soon to be erased from every boardroom plaque. Emily then called an emergency press conference that same afternoon. Standing before a wall of flashing cameras, she unveiled a new campaign, one inspired by her ordeal. Behind her, a massive billboard displayed her image, glowing against the skyline, "Women Rise." The same spot that once showed "Trust Built to Last" now shined with empowerment and renewal. Her voice was steady as she spoke to the world. "I fell from my own empire," she said, "but I landed on my strength. This company will now stand for women who refuse to break." The crowd erupted in applause, not just for a survivor, but for a woman reborn. The courtroom buzzed with quiet tension as flashes from news cameras illuminated the polished marble floors. Every eye was on the woman sitting at the front, Vanessa Rhodes, her once glamorous appearance now replaced with a pale, haunted expression. Her wrists were cuffed, her gaze distant, and the arrogance that once dripped from her every word had long vanished. Across the room sat Emily, calm and composed, her newborn baby cradled in her arms. The soft coos of the infant were the only warmth in a room filled with cold judgment and consequence. The judge entered, his gavel striking sharply. The trial had dragged on for weeks, every detail of that fateful night dissected, the rooftop confrontation, the jealousy, the shove, the fall. Witnesses had testified, including Daniel, who confessed to his affair and negligence. His face was hollow, his spirit broken, as he watched the woman he betrayed stand taller than ever before. The prosecutor's words echoed through the courtroom. This was not a crime of passion, it was a deliberate act of envy and violence. Vanessa's lawyer pleaded for leniency, but the evidence was overwhelming. Emily sat quietly, her gaze unwavering, her baby's tiny fingers wrapped around her own. When the judge finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of justice. "Vanessa Rhodes," he said firmly, "for the attempted murder of Emily Steele and her unborn child, this court sentences you to life imprisonment." Gasps filled the courtroom, but Emily didn't flinch. She simply closed her eyes for a moment, as if releasing the last piece of pain she had been holding onto since that night. As guards led Vanessa away, their eyes met one final time. There was no hatred in Emily's, only calm strength. The mistress who once tried to destroy her was now a ghost of her own choices, fading into a future behind bars. Emily stood, adjusted the soft blanket around her baby, and walked toward the exit, every step echoing like a heartbeat of triumph. Daniel called her name faintly, but she didn't turn. Some goodbyes are better left unspoken. Outside, sunlight poured over the city she owned, the same skyline that had once almost claimed her life. A new billboard glowed high above the courthouse, one she had personally designed. It showed a silhouette of a woman standing strong against the horizon with bold words beneath, "You can't break what was built to rise again." As Emily looked up at it, her baby stirred gently in her arms. A soft smile touched her lips. She had fallen, been betrayed, and nearly lost everything, yet here she was, stronger than ever. Her past had tried to kill her, but it had only taught her how to fly.